there's just a lot in the news. Let me get into all of this. The Cokes are now worth $50 billion. What does this mean? The Dow is down 400 points. Congress looks like it might be imploding. And in the midst of this, there was this great celebration a couple of days ago about Don't Ask, Don't Tell has ended. But is this like the 1948 order by Harry Truman to integrate the military? I mean, is this... Lieutenant Dan Choi is an Arab linguist, an Iraqi war veteran, West Point graduate, infantry officer, and a gay man who was fired under Don't Ask, Don't Tell from the military. His website, ltdanchoi.com. Lieutenant, welcome to the program.
It's great to be on with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. The quote I have from you is, "I'm not going to party. I'm going to get ready for court." Tell us why.
Well, there's a long story behind my journey. As it stands right now, the federal government is trying me and charging me with federal charges, very unprecedented, for chaining myself up to the White House fence. In November, that was the third time that I had been arrested at the White House in protest of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, pushing this president to keep his word. And so what we have found is there's political retribution going on here because of a political election.
Because typically
the reason why I said I am not going to party is because it's not a day for people to lend any political credibility to an election. We're talking about real lives here, and it's always been about real lives. It's not just political theater. These are people's lives. I'm going to go to jail for 6 months if I'm convicted in this trial, and if the president is proud of that decision to continue charging me federally, then he can throw a party and I will not go.
Typically, when people, a couple of friends of mine actually were arrested, chained to the White House fence just a few weeks ago. Typically, it's a city charge, and it's a $300 fine or a $100 fine. Actually, they got hit with a $300 fine. It was harsher. So you're suggesting that the federal government charging you for this is the amped up version of this, that this is the political retribution?
I'm not charging that. I have evidence that just came in yesterday, and if you go to Fire Dog Lake, it will be published today. Okay. Emails that come from liaisons at the White House, high-level political operatives, including Jim Messina and Brian Bond, Tina Chen, and a lot of other people who are involved in the re-election campaign who are embarrassed that a gay person, a gay American, could believe that these are civil rights to the point where we say we're willing to put our bodies on the line. Those kinds of protests they did not like because it was embarrassing to the president, who was not actually fighting tooth and nail. He was making some speeches eloquently, yes, but that doesn't cut it. We were telling the president to use his Rolodex, use his Facebook fan page, his Facebook friends, his Twitter account, to contact some of those senators, as he had a lot more power than we did. And so for 2 years we fought, and we were getting desperate. And to visualize our desperation and to visualize the discrimination was an absolute need of our civil rights movement. And so now what you're seeing is deterrence and suppression on the part of our federal government. And I ask, yes, it's less violent than Syria, it's less violent than Tunisia and Libya and Egypt, but it's still the same idea. A president or a head of state that wants to stay in power and does everything he can to deter others from embarrassing him with the truth.
You have said, we're talking with Lieutenant Dan Choi, one of the real heroes of the gay community in helping
the manipulated gay community.
I beg your pardon?
I want to make that very clear, that we as a minority have been putting up with discrimination and straight supremacy for far too long. We are standing up to be counted, and we will not disappear. If anybody in the White House is listening, you are put on notice.
I think they got it. You wrote, Tuesday is nothing like the 1948 order to integrate. I think that's not a really important point. Could you expand on that, please?
Harry Truman, the President of the United States in 1948, He himself served in the military and found that, yes, the racism that he saw was un-American. It was not just an order that allowed black people to serve in an integrated unit. It was based on racial lines and religious lines. One important thing that we should point out, Executive Order 9981 in 1948 was titled the Equal Treatment and Equal Opportunity Order. And it said that equal opportunity will exist. Now, Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, because of President Obama and because of the compromise of some gay elites that live in Washington, D.C., they decided to strip out the part where it says equal opportunity, where it says non-discrimination, partner benefits. None of those things are included in Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, and they're having parties about this. The work is not yet done, because right now, if a gay soldier dies in Iraq, Afghanistan, or Libya, or wherever, then their partner will not be given the American flag on behalf of a grateful nation to award you this flag as a memorial for the sacrifice that not only the service member, but you as the family also put in. When we say we support our troops, we should say we support all of our troops and not just some of our troops, or not just the ones that seem like us.
And the irony of this is that in some of the largest corporations in America right now, those partner benefits are a given. In fact, I think Disney is one of them. It's
not just a matter like Google actually goes above and beyond and says we're going to compensate for your tax inequities here. It's not just about putting a picture of a loved one on your table, on your desk, in your cubicle, or in your Kevlar helmet. It's about actually supporting those families and telling people that we as Americans, gay Americans, we're willing to sacrifice. And throughout the history of all countries, it's not just a corporate issue, it is about the idea of citizenship. Throughout the history of civilizations, countries have said, if you serve in the military, you deserve full citizenship. The situation that we see today, right here, right now, in 2011, 60 years after, 60-plus years, man, if you were born in 1948, you're retirement age right now. And so what lessons have we learned? We're still at the situation of America where we say, gay Americans, we can die for our country, but we cannot live free and equal in it.
Lieutenant Dan Choi, the Twitter is LT, Dan Choi, CHOI, the website ltdanchoicHoi.com, and you said that the story will be up on over on Jane Hampshire's site, firedoglake.com.
That's correct.
It's a
all
great website.
of the evidence, as well as our response and this historic and radical move by the government for a writ of mandamus, you can read it all there.
Okay. Lieutenant Choi, I just want to honor the work that you've done and and the sacrifices that you've made, and just personally, thank you for being on our program as well today.
I salute you. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, sir. Lieutenant Dan Choi, as I said, ltdanchoi.com. Check it out.